Yes. How's that? Instead of asking how each other's weeks are, I'm like, you've had a productive week. You have had a. We've told each other.
We already know. It's great.
We already know. Spoiler alert, we've already said our hellos for the day.
So today we're here to talk a little bit about the impact of pricing, price rises, shortage of trades, and that kind of thing within the building industry in WA at the moment. COVID has certainly had a massive part to play in that. And then since then, I feel like it's just continued to skyrocket. It just doesn't seem to be plateauing anytime soon.
No. What's interesting now though is what we've in the industry known for the last few years about price rises, time delays. I feel like those things that are sort of common knowledge to us and what we've been telling our clients, or in some instances battling to tell our clients, with them not really wanting to take us too seriously about it, it's now filtering through to the general public, and it's now becoming I guess more common knowledge that this is the reality of the situation. And so I'm finding people are a little bit more accepting about having to wait longer for initial meetings and waiting longer to get through the workloads, because they're getting it now, that it's not just you giving them having to take your word for it. It's now common knowledge, and that they can see it coming through on mainstream media and that kind of thing as well. Mainstream media is actually serving a good purpose at the moment for getting that sort of information out.
It actually is, which is a really good segue into my next piece. I came across this really good article published by ABC News, and it was published on the 26th of June this year, and it just gives some really great numbers around basically how things are going and the state of the industry, and around pricing as well. So I've picked out a couple of bits that I'd really love to share with you. So in the 2023, and this is read straight from the article, in the 2022-2023 financial year, 132 construction businesses in Western Australia alone entered external administration or had an administrator appointed, compared to 93 companies in the previous year. Nationally, about 2,000 building and construction companies shut their doors. Now, that is huge.
That's big
Absolutely
figures.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah. So why is that happening?
This is very much around, so I think this is very much around the signing of fixed price contracts, which is great as a homeowner, because you know that it's going to cost X amount to build. But then that's where builders have come unstuck, because as they've signed, the time it takes between signing the fixed price contract and ordering the materials to go to site, prices have skyrocketed. And what was true for the pricing to start with, when they're doing all their estimates and all their calculations for quantities, is now no longer the true figure that they're going to be charged. And it's just huge. And all of a sudden these companies are out of pocket, and they just can't survive, because you can't absorb that all the time. There is a percentage that you can absorb, but this is just huge.
It is, with the amount. And I literally had builders that when I speak to them, they've said to me, I've had to like double, triple, quadruple check my quote, because I just can't believe how much this has gone up. And they're not, the figures just looked unreasonable to them, that they've had to triple check their work. But it's not like the builders were getting, one price increase. It was happening from the same suppliers multiple times in a fortnightly period, let alone over a few months, when they first signed their contract to when they've actually got to construction and need to order the materials. So they've seen multiple price rises, and that's with supply, but then also with trade. you're not scheduling your trades. Well, you might be. It depends what the lead time is from contract signing to project construction. But if it's a longer lead time, you might not be scheduling certain trades that come in at the tail end of construction right back when you're signing your building contract. And so as
Yeah.
trade availability has tightened up because the industry's just been booming and there's more demand, trades are now putting up their prices as well because, one, they can. Not that all of them are just doing it for the sake of doing it. I think it's fair to say that there actually hadn't been too many trade price increases in the industry across Australia for a fair amount of time. So that was probably overdue as well, with everything that's
Yeah.
inflated. And it had been some time. So, that's happened as well. So the builder's kind of been caught out with a
Yeah.
double whammy there. It's been caught out with supply price increases, but also then with trade pricing going up as well from contract signing to actually construction. And like you say, because they have to absorb it all, and one job enough is enough to send someone broke, let alone across multiple projects.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, with the labor, like the trades putting their prices up, I kind of feel like, I mean, other than the ones that are maybe trying to take advantage of the situation, that aside, if you have a look at the cost of living and how much the cost of living has gone up recently, between food and just trying to survive, I suppose, your energy bills, all that sort of stuff has gone up. Interest rates have gone up. So all of these things play a part in how much trades have to charge for their services, because they have to pay bills as well. So if everything's going up, then it's only just that their pricing goes up as well. It has been the perfect storm, and it's just hasn't played out to be great for anybody, to be honest.
No, and I think when we're operating in an industry where perhaps builders or the industry is notorious for, like variations and that kind of thing, which are always, they're always unfavorable. Nobody wants to pay more money than they need to. But,
No.
already something that had a stigma to it has now been made worse. But when this first started happening, sort of at the start of, or just after the start of COVID, and then as these price increases started occurring, it was very difficult for the builders to be passing on these costs to clients in the actual practical sense of it, because clients weren't having a bar
Yeah.
of it because they were so used to, don't let the builders take advantage of you and that sort of mentality. And so I think that people are already high alert. So when this first started happening, the builders, it was very legitimate that they had to pass on certain cost increases, unless of course they had a fixed price contract, in which case they just had to wear it. But they weren't doing that for too much longer once they realized, hang on, this is going to send me broke, so we're going to have to combat this. And they started putting a lot of provisional sums and allowances in their contracts for that reason, which then led to variations to the sum of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, up to sort of 80, $90,000 in cost
Which is
changes,
huge.
which is huge. If you're building a home, if you're a first home owner, a first home builder rather, that's your finance falls under, and then your finance falls through. The builder doesn't get the work, and they've spent all this time on it. Like it's just been one fucking massive disaster, really. But it's only just now, as highlighted through that article and probably many more, it's really only just coming out to the point where people understand it as common knowledge. The information's been out there, but it takes a while to sort of filter through, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, and there's another really good example in that article. So just reading from the article again, it says we're still building houses at 2020 prices. So all the trades have put their rates up off the suppliers. The business owner says that it's been impossible to make a profit over the last few years. And we did an estimate costing from a house we built in 2018 to 2023. And just the roof and the timber went from $7,042 to $18,960. That's a 145% increase. So that just gives you an idea of just the material supplies for a
Mm.
roof. And yeah, okay, that's a big part of your home, but there's so much more to it. And if you think it's all going up 145% around that,
Mm.
yeah, that's where those increases from the builders and the variation fees have come in.
Oh man, when you break it down like that, it's ballistic. It's mind-boggling to those figures
Yeah,
and those percentage increases are insane. I remember back,
is absolutely.
when I first, when I used to about 10 years ago, I worked for a project builder in Adelaide. And project builders and custom builders and renovation, they're all completely different in the way that they price projects. They run off
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
models. And, a project builder back then would be, and I'm talking like, oh, in Perth, it's like your Dale Orcocks. In Adelaide, it's like your Hickenbothams. Over in the eastern states, it'd be like your, I don't want to say the wrong names, like your Burbridges or whatever. Like they all have sort of their entry level project build homes, which is your first home builders, which is or you
Yeah,
know younger couples, that kind of thing, that are just really chasing
yeah,
like what's the bare minimum I can build a house on and to get into the market. And they'd be about
yeah,
$900 per square meter, standard features to the home, standard spec. If you then wanted to
yeah,
look at something a little bit more bespoke, or, your custom build started to be around the, I don't know, like the 1,200 to 1,300 square meter, per square meter mark. That was sort of
yeah,
10 years ago. And before COVID hit, there was slight increases in that. So sort of your 900 per square meter jumped up to about $1,000 per square meter for an entry level standard spec home. Um, and then COVID hit. It's a figure
absolutely.
I hear tossed around a lot when I'm speaking to my builders. In general, is that things are sort of, yeah, total build price has gone up sort of 40 to
Yeah,
45%. Um, so if you look at a figure from a standard project build home, which has gone from 900 per square meter to $1,000 per square meter in sort of
mm,
5, 6, 7 years before COVID, and then all of a sudden is jumping up another 40 to 45% or 40 to 50% in the last few years, that standard spec
yeah,
project home is now going to be $1,500 per square meter, which has actually exceeded the cost of what it would have cost to build a custom home back 10 years ago, which is not that long
yeah, that's
ago.
it.
Just to sort of give people an idea of how much costs have shifted. Custom
Yeah,
homes now, if you apply that same logic, would gone from, like what, $1,200 per square meter, and now probably sitting up closer to, 17, 18, $1,900 per square meter. I mean, obviously with custom, it can go, the sky's the limit. It could go much higher than that, depending what you're doing. But as sort of like a
yeah,
base figure, $1,600, perhaps a little bit more. And then renovation work is something completely different again, and your square meter rate, you don't really even, shush please, Morgan. Morgan doesn't like the fact that the prices have gone up either. Neither does the dog over the fence, apparently. Um, if you look at renovation work, that's a complete new ball game as well. And a lot of the
yes.
renovation builders typically don't price off square meter rate, because no one project is the same. And there's a large
Yeah, well,
component of
it's just so different.
different ball game.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you're
You
not
can't do square
building
meterage for that stuff.
No, you're not building from a blank canvas, and there's a lot of undoing
Yeah,
and redoing and fixing upping of the
yeah,
existing home before. So it's almost like two projects in one. You've got the you know making good of the existing part, and then sort of transitioning that into the
mm,
new, and then you've got the new build component. So that's why you could expect that your price point for a reno would be sort of closer to $3,000 to $5,000 per square meter, going back a
yeah,
few years ago. So now, people are like, why is it so expensive to
yeah.
renovate? All of the above.
That'd be why.
That'd be
Yeah,
why. Yep.
yeah.
But yeah, they're scary figures, hey?
They are insane, insane figures. And yeah, I mean, we built the house that we're in now, and that was, what, 10 years ago now.
Mm.
I'm just glad that we're not in the market to be building another home at the moment, because I can only imagine what the cost would be to build something very similar to the one that we have now. And
Mm.
my heart goes out to homeowners first for starters, because obviously
Mm.
they're trying, especially like first home buyers, builders,
Mm.
they're trying to break into the market, and it's hard enough as it is. And then, COVID happens and price escalations happen, and it almost becomes impossible to
Mm.
own your first home. So yeah, my heart goes out to them. And then there's the builders that have kind of got caught up in everything, and have
Mm.
no control over the pricing, but unfortunately, a lot of them are just no longer around anymore.
Yeah.
It's not a great state for the industry to be in. And yeah, it is heartbreaking when you're in the industry as well and you can sort of see these things happening. But at the same time, I am
Mm.
glad that it is becoming very much common knowledge, because it's something that really does need to be spoken about, and people deserve to know.
And I think there is that's it. Exactly what you just said. People need to know. They deserve to know and they need to know.
Yeah,
And what
yeah,
frustrates me, I see still a lot of, is that people are being misguided by industry professionals. They're being misguided
yeah,
by builders that aren't being transparent. They're being misguided by designers that either aren't being transparent or they just haven't got up to scratch with their connection to how much things cost. Recently
yeah,
I went out to a consult, and the client and I could tell this story so many friggin' times. I could give so many examples of how many
mm,
times this has actually happened, and it's a prime reason why I operate my business the way I do, because I went out to this particular consult recently. I've gone out there and they had their plans drawn up. So the whole reason I was out there was just to help them design their kitchen.
yeah,
Now, when I got out there and I looked at their plans, and then I said, okay, so what's our budget? And they told me their budget was about $200,000 for the whole project. And I'm looking at it going, well,
yeah,
your kitchen alone, based on what you're telling me, is going to be 80 to 100,000. That didn't include the 2 bathrooms, the laundry, the mezzanine level that they wanted to enclose, the other bathroom and ensuite, and then this whole extension outside, which was sitting on a bit of land that
yeah.
overlooked a pool with a greater than 1 metre retaining drop down to the pool, and they were going to extend right out to that edge. Like, the site works and engineering in this
Wow.
project alone would have been minimum 50K, probably closer to 80 to 100 perhaps. I don't know, that's not my scope, but I would have said it's bigger figures.
Yeah.
Without then
Yes.
renovating, your bathrooms on the inside, 30 to 40,000, your laundry, another sort of 20 to 25. I mean, obviously these are just very, very loose figures. It could be significantly higher if you
Yes.
wanted it to, but without extending on that footprint, that project alone for the interior spaces would have been their budget. And then someone has
Yeah.
designed something knowing that their budget was 200,000. So that tells me that you've either got a
Yeah.
very irresponsible architect or building designer, doing this design that actually doesn't care about the client's best interests, or
Yeah.
let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they do in fact care and they've got a heart and they've done this unknowingly. Well, get educated, guys.
Yeah.
Like, get yourself out on site, talk to your builders and find out how much things actually cost, because they have done this client a
Yes.
complete disservice, and that client's paid. I don't actually know how much they paid specifically, but it could have been anywhere between $2,000 and $10,000 for these plans
Mm.
that have gone to council, by the
That's
way. So
it.
they've then paid the first round of planning fees. So, how far does
Yeah.
someone get down the track without having this information? So I guess the purpose of
Yeah.
us talking about this today was not just to whinge about the status of the price of things, because it is very much the reality that we're dealing
No.
with, but the fact that it has in fact got to the general public is a good thing, because it's just going to take
Yeah.
some slack off the industry professionals, namely the builders. But any
Yeah.
way we can educate the general public about the reality of things. I still get people ringing up and
Mm.
wanting to renovate their bathroom for 10 grand. Mate, those days were gone 10 years ago, let alone after this surge of, inflation that we've got at the moment. You want to renovate a bathroom properly to good quality for under 30K. Ways to achieve it, sure, but you're going to be hard pressed. Yeah.
I mean, today in talking about pricing and all of those sorts of things, it is very much an education piece. As we said right at the beginning, it's information that the industry has known about for a long while, but now that it's kind of coming out into the big wide world, it is important to talk about. It's important to be educated on, and if you are looking to build sometime soon, then it's definitely a good one to listen to. Very good episode to listen to. But it's just, keep an open mind, do all the homework, research everything, and don't go in with your eyes closed, because otherwise you could be in for a very, very nasty surprise.
Just, I guess, some questions to ask, because again, people don't know what they don't know, but you want to be, when you're doing your research to find the designer or the builder that you're going to be working with, you want to be asking them about, what's your construction knowledge like? What was the last project you did? How did that come out in price? Have you got any projects that you've done that are similar in size or scope to what we've done? And how did that look? And what did the price increases look like? And was there variations? Be asking those sort of questions, because you'll soon find out if you're dealing with a pretender or not. First and foremost, if they're reputable, if they're operating in the scope of the project that you're now working with, they're going to be able to, you're going to suss it out just by the way they answer those questions. Because if they sort of like and ah and fluff on the answer, well, there's your answer right there. If they can come back and go, yep, categorically worked on this project, this is how it went down, this is what happened, here's how it was similar to yours, here's how it differed, here's how we can modify yours, you're getting good answers there, which means they know their shit. The other part of that is we don't want to be discouraging people by scaring them off with these prices. We don't want to do our industry a disservice either by
that's
freaking
not
people
what we're
out.
Here for at all. No.
Definitely not. And renovations are still are very strong still, which is cool. But I think the trick to dealing with these price increases is, again, it's the education. It's knowing how far your dollar can get you. And I think it's too easy for people to go, well, what I want, I can't afford, so I'm not going to do it. Well, again, if you find yourself a great designer, a designer's going to sit down and go, right, tell me what your actual needs are. Don't tell me that you want a big box on the back of your house, or don't tell me that you want to build a house with all the rooms, with all the square meterage. Like, don't get into design mode. This is what I say to my clients. Can we just park the design for a minute and tell me about your family? Tell me about your dynamic. Let's suss out what you actually need, and then let's build upon it from there. If you're dealing with a blank canvas with a home, obviously you can put whatever wherever. But if you're dealing with a renovation and you had this big grand plan to double the size of your home and extend out the back, people when they're planning renovations, I find they only think about the actual extension bit, and then they leave the inside of the home exactly how it is, which is likely not a great layout. Whereas if you can be clever, once you've gathered what you actually need or what the family requirements are, you can then look at the existing home and go, right, well, how can we repurpose certain spots and maybe shimmy this, change this, without having the need to do such a large extension, which in turn may then bring down the overall spend. All of a sudden the boxes are still being ticked, but we're not spending as much, and maybe that is now feasible. So just because prices have gone up doesn't necessarily discount the renovation or the new build project completely. It just might look different to what you first thought, and it will only be when you've got the advice of a trusted designer / builder, both, hopefully, on your team that you can start exploring those possibilities. And that would be my advice around that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit the nail on the head there, Bron. It is more about educating yourself than it is about being scared to move forward with that project, because realistically, if you, like you say, if you have the right professionals in your corner, then the project is just going to run smoothly. It's going to come in within budget, potentially even maybe a little bit under budget if we can make some little adjustments here and there. Who knows?
I laugh because
but
yes, but they'll always add up. it'll always go more.
They'll always find,
they'll find stuff to spend on it. Just maybe not in the build component, but in the selections,
maybe part of the finishing. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's it.
We didn't spend as much here. Now we can splurge on this. Next minute, oh shit, we're over again. But at least it was their choice that time. That's the difference.
That's it, exactly.
Awesome. Well, hopefully that has been a little bit may or may not have been news to you, but hopefully some coping mechanisms through the price increases, and some good advice there on what you can do and some questions to ask to
definitely
deal with it.
And if you'd like to have a read of that article, we'll include the link in the show notes as well, just so you can have a read through and use that as a bit of education for yourself as well.
Yeah, and as always, if you've got any questions or you want to pick our brain about any component of that or any of the other episodes, feel free to send us a message and we'd be happy to chat it out.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, we hope you enjoyed that, and would love to hear your key takeaways, guys.
Awesome.
So until next time.
See you, tools.